There we are, the recording started.
Okay, croeso bore da everyone. Welcome, good morning to this meeting of the Swansea Bay City Region Joint Committee. I'll take apologies for absence first, please, Alison.
Thank you, Chair. Apologies for absence from Jonathan Housewell, Emma Woolett, Wendy Walters and Maria Battle. Okay,
are there any others to provide today?
Yes, Councillor Ted Lathams.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Jones. We move on then to declarations of interest. Tracy, did you want to provide any information first, please?
Yes, thank you, Chair. In relation to agenda item 9, which is the innovation matrix change request, can I suggest that those representatives that are present today that work for the university declare a personal interest?
Chair, can I declare that interest, please?
Okay, thank you, Midwin. And any others?
Yes, Geraint, similarly, the interest declared.
Okay, thank you, Geraint.
And again, myself, if I may, please, Rob.
Okay, thank you, Barry. Okay, if there are no others, we'll move then to announcements of the chair. I don't have any announcements today, so we'll move on to item 4, which is public questions. I'm not aware that any have come in. Alison?
No public questions received, Chair.
Okay, thank you. So we'll move now to the first full item on the agenda, which is the Audit Wales report on the Swansea Bay City Region Statement of Accounts 2021. And it's a pleasure to welcome Mr. Garcia again. So, Jason, over to you.
Thank you, Chair. Good morning, everybody. You should start on page 3 of your pack this morning. This is our annual report on the financial statements to you as those charged with governance for the Swansea Bay City Deal Joint Committee. So the first part I'd like to take you to is the contents page on page 5 of the report, which is the pleasing statement you'd like to see from us, which is we intend to issue an unqualified audit report on your financial statements, but there are some issues which we'll go through to report to you prior to their approval at this meeting later this morning. If we go on then to the next page of the report, just a couple of paragraphs I'd like to highlight. This year we've obviously had the first payments going out from the city deal to individual authorities, and our materiality level is based on gross expenditure. So there's been a big jump in that this year because ultimately there's a payment of over 11 million going out of your accounts. So paragraph 4 highlights our materiality level for this year, which was 118,785. And then paragraph 5 talks about some individual items of the accounts that we think are of more importance and as such apply a different level of materiality. So there's 2 items there. One is senior staff remuneration and the other related party disclosures for officers and members, and we've set a limit of £1,000 for those. If I can then take you on to paragraph 7. This I can give you a verbal update on. The call of audit date was earlier this week for the city deal, and that is when members of the public can come to myself and ask questions or provide challenges to any items in the accounts for this particular year. I'm pleased to say that we've had no communications or items of correspondence, so that in itself doesn't delay anything in relation to signing off the audit opinion. The next section then of the report talks about the impact of COVID-19 on this year's audit. We've been working in this way now for the best part of 18 months, and getting more and more used to it. But Exhibit 1 talks about some of the specifics that we've put in place, so there's nothing really I need to go through there, but obviously happy to answer any particular questions if members have them. Next part of the report talks about the unqualified audit opinion, and the audited wording is in Appendix 2, which will be included in your draft set of accounts, or your final set of accounts, I should say, sorry. And then we come on to the significant issues that we identified during the audit. So the first section, very pleasing that there were no misstatements identified in the accounts which remain uncorrected. There were some misstatements that were corrected, and I'll go through these when I get to Appendix 3. And then there's one significant item that I just want to bring to your attention that we've identified during the audit, and it's one that we have raised previously. There have been some improvements in the year, but there were several declarations that are relating to specific individuals that weren't updated during 2021, and there's some further improvements that could be made to the collation of declarations of interest and the disclosure of related party transactions. So as I say then, Appendix 1 is our letter of representation. This is a series of disclosures we request from yourselves as part of the audit process. So there's a template there for you to complete and get back to us. Appendix 2 is the wording of our audit opinion. And then coming on to Appendix 3, there's a summary of the amendments that have been made during the audit. I think the key point to make here in the first paragraph at the top is that none of these errors had an impact on your year-end total comprehensive income figure. These are mainly classification type errors between specific reserves and other things. So, happy to answer any questions on that as we go forward. As far as process now is concerned, I'm sure Chris will have some comments in relation to the accounts in a second. We'll then ask you to approve the financial statements, get us a signed set of financial statements in an electronic format and a signed letter of representation in an electronic format, and then I'm due to meet the Auditor General tomorrow to have the audit opinion signed, which will be within the statutory deadline of the 31st of July, which is pleasing because not many local government bodies will have met that specific deadline, this current financial year. So that's all I wanted to say, Chair, and I'm more than happy to take any questions.
Great. Thank you, Mr. Garcia, and very pleasing to have an unqualified statement of accounts, which is really pleasing. I've got nothing to add specifically, but I'll open it up, as you say, for questions or comments. So I'll go to Chris Moore first. Chris.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, I just want to just comment and thank Jason and his team for the audit. It's gone very smoothly, and I'm actually pleased that we've been able to meet the statutory deadline of the 31st of July with this one. And just to reiterate a couple of entries that are in Appendix 3, they don't impact on the bottom line. And as Jason said, that they were really classification and presentational issues more than anything. And that's great from my point of view. So just to reiterate that and thank Jason and his team for his work. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Chris. And we'd echo those thanks, I'm sure, from everybody on the committee for the work that Mr. Garcia and his team have done. So, Jason, thank you very much. You're, of course, welcome to stay with us for the rest of the agenda, but if you wish to leave, we fully understand.
If you don't mind, I'll stay until you've actually approved the account. So I've observed that, and then I'll leave you to it, if that's okay.
Of course, no problem at all. Okay, so this one then, in terms of the audit report, is this for noting?
There is Chair, there is a recommendation. It's on page 1. It's to receive the Audit Wales audit. So if you could vote on that.
Certainly. Can we launch the vote then, or could we just, if we're not going to launch the vote, could ask the leader colleagues and representatives to raise their hands, please? All those in favour? Okay, thank you very much. That's unanimous. So that is carried, sorry. Okay, thank you. We'll move then to item 6, which is the statement of accounts 2020-21. Go back to Chris Moore for this item, please.
Okay, thanks, Chair. This neatly follows on from the audit report, and just to reiterate, this has now been produced by the 31st of July. And although the actual document itself has got narrative on page 26 or page 3 of the report, published subject to audit, it is, as at this meeting, will be final and complete and signed off with the appropriate signatories. So obviously when the agenda went out, it had to be subject to audit because we still had the call of audit where electors could come in, as Jason has referred to. As far as the statement is concerned, it's a pretty much dictated format by SIPFA and the Code of Practice and legislation. We have added some additional narrative to this report that actually helps with the reader to understand really what Swansea Bay City Region is about what their objectives are, etc. And I think page 7 and 8 of the report, or page 30 and 31 of the report, actually illustrates some of the funding and some of the information around that, which is helpful to the reader. The fundamental statements then come on a little bit further within the document, and they start really with page 39 or page 16 of the report, where there's a summary of the financial position for the year. The first one is a outturn position against the budget, and you will see that that is really the main trading activity of the PMO effectively in terms of the management of the office, with the partner contributions coming in and some of Welsh Government top slicing money coming into that funding. It's showing effectively a deficit, but it's showing a deficit because at that point, at the point of the year end, we were only able to bring in the funding that we'd actually released through funding agreements, a proportion that, if you recall, there's a 1.5% top slicing of funding that's actually supporting the PMO office and the accountable body functions. So hence, we couldn't bring in the 723, we only brought in the 168,000. Having said that, for the profile of what we got to deliver and the fact that we are actually delivering a little bit later than the original city deal, which started some 3 years ago, that actually allows the funding then to be carried forward to future years, so that we actually got the PMO office to support the delivery of the projects in the fundamental years. The following page just summarises the cash receipts that we've had in from UK and Welsh Government, and you can see the value of 18 million coming in the year. 2 lots of 18 million we had last year, and we've released 11 million of that funding to the projects that have actually signed off funding agreements as at the end of the year. I think we're going to have more of a rush of them this year, and we're going to be playing catch up, because once the funding agreement's in place, the previous 3 years worth of funding, then subject to the expenditure being incurred on the project, can be released to the project. But the consequential at the moment, as at the year end, is that we were carrying 42 million of the funding in the bank, which obviously is accruing interest and actually supporting the projects, which will be released as we go further down the line in terms of releasing more of the projects, and more to the point, signing off the funding agreements. That as you know, we've got Pentra and we got PDM, homes, power stations all coming along, so they're going to suddenly draw effectively in this year. They'll be drawing 4 years worth of money out of the city deal. Moving slightly further within the statement, then you've got the accounting policies that have been adopted, and they are actually stated on page 49 or page 26 of the actual report. And then what you've got is the fundamental accounting statements, which are the key ones that would be audited, which is in a bit more detail than the previous ones in the summary, but also presented in a manner that is required under the Accounting Code of Practice. And that's on page 32 of the report, or page 55 of the pack. That summarises effectively the same position, that the income and expenditure and the net position was 24 million at the end of the year, which is the influx of the 36 million less than 11 million, plus picking up the PMO turnover costs. Following page then gives you the balance sheet, which is relatively simple because we haven't got any assets as such other than the cash asset. So it's a relatively straightforward balance sheet as we see them these days. Notes of the accounts follow, and then there's a key document at the end, which is then the annual governance statement. The annual governance statement actually details in some comprehensive detail the governance structure that we operate to as part of the city deal. That is a key document that is required to be signed by the SRO of Swansea Bay City Deal and the chair yourself, and that follows as being the part that actually completes the statement overall. So the statement, as I say, is signed by myself and you, Chair, and then the annual governance statement, or AGS, is then signed by the SRO and the chairman. As Jason has already mentioned, this will be presented to the Auditor General tomorrow, and on the basis of the conclusion of the audit, it will be signed off with an unqualified audit report. the couple of amendments that were referred to in Jason's report have been included within the overall document. So that really summarises at a very high level the document. Willingly take any questions, and I would like to thank Richard Arnold, who has done most of the work on this document in terms of pulling it together, and has pulled together a very useful and compliant document. So at that point, Chair, thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you, Chris, for that, and for the overview, and obviously for yourself and Richard, as you referenced, for the work done on the statement of accounts. Are there any questions or comments for Chris on anything that he's taken us through? We're in a healthy financial position, but as Chris said, obviously with the approvals that are now through, then draws on that central reserve of money will start to take place relatively quickly. So, okay, everybody okay with that? Thank you. This one's for approval then. So again, can I ask leader and deputy leader colleagues to raise their hands, please, if they're in favour of the things? Okay, thank you. Yeah, that's unanimous again. Thank you very much, folks. Okay, thank you, Chris. We'll move then to the final sort of financial item today, which is the letter of representation to Audit Wales. Chris, back to you.
Thank you, Chair. This letter of representation needs to be approved by the committee today. It's a letter that actually is signed by the Chair and myself, which actually, as Section 151, which actually confirms management representations that have taken place since the statement was actually put in place originally. The representation is to Audit, confirming that we have, to the best of our knowledge, fulfilled our responsibilities in terms of any legislative requirements and any requirements in the CIFA Code of Practice. It actually then goes on to confirm that we have actually given the auditors full access to all information that they need, and unrestricted access to the staff to determine any necessary audit evidence that they required. We also confirm that we have provided to the auditor any knowledge of audit fraud or suspected fraud, and that we've actually declared any related party transactions or any items around that level. So it then goes on in a bit more detail, declaring the information around the financial statements and representation. So it is confirming that we've acted properly and basically that there is no relevant audit information that we are aware of that we should have made them aware of in the statement. So basically that's the letter, and it'll be signed after the meeting by both myself and you, Chair, subject to the committee approving it today.
Yep, thank you, Chris. Again, anybody got any questions or comments for Chris on the letter? Again, straightforward, it appears. Everybody, no, I can't see any. Okay, so again, we'll move to the vote on this one. So again, can I ask my leader and deputy leader colleagues to show if they're in approval? Thank you very much. That's unanimous. So thank you, Chris. We'll obviously make sure those are now signed and then provided as you suggest. So thank you for that. Okay, that brings us to the end of the...
Chair, can I just point out one that's in the papers that will be amended before we sign it, is that on the representations, on the last but one paragraph, it does state that the committee were going to approve the financial statements on the 10th of September. That has been brought forward, and that error has not been amended in here. So just for the minutes, I'd like that included, that it will be today's date, not the date of the 10th of September where we originally intended it going. As you know, we had a special meeting to bring it within the statutory deadlines.
That's fine, Chris. Yes, we'll make that note in the minutes and make the amendment. Okay, fantastic. Okay, thank you all very much. Jason, if you did wish to leave now, you can, or you're of course welcome to listen to the following items.
Thank you, Chair. I'll leave now, but thank you ever so much.
No problem. Thank you. Take care.
Bye.
Okay, we'll go to our first update, I guess, on the next business case, which is the skills and talent business case. And we've got to welcome Jane Lewis, who's going to give us an update in terms of this programme. So Jane, over to you.
Good morning, all. Lovely to be with you. Could I introduce Barry Lyles, who's the SRO for the programme, to say a few words before the presentation, please?
Of course. Barry, do come in.
Yes, many thanks, Chair. Thank you, Jane. Yes, it's Barry Lyles, Chair of the Skill Solution Group, and here as the SRO this morning for this initiative. I'm highly conscious that many of you will have seen the presentation that Jane will take us through in a moment, so I apologise for that. But I think there are maybe one or two members present who have not had sight of this presentation. It'll expand a little bit on the papers you've had, but more than happy after the presentation then to receive any questions and hopefully provide the answers. So if I can ask Jane at this point in time just to take the screen.
You could let me know when you can see the presentation.
Yes, it is present. Thank you, Jane.
Thank you very much. So good morning, and this is the presentation for the Skills and Talent programme. And the Regional Learning and Skills Partnership are presenting this to you as the organisation who are leading the Skills and Talent programme. We've been in existence since 2010, and we have experience in working with employers and training providers in the region to identify skills gaps and working together to address the skills needs in the region. The RLSP is an independent organisation, and we have 9 industry cluster groups that have links with over 2,000 businesses across the region. We publish an annual employment and skills plan to set out priority areas that is used by Welsh Government to determine funding for further education and work-based learning. We publish specific reports on skills in the sectors, and an example of this was one we did for the Tidal Lagoon project in Swansea. And we're leading on the Skills and Talent programme for the City Deal. So what is this programme about? You'll see the vision of this programme on the screen, but this is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to harness the skills requirements of the City Deal projects and the wider regional needs. The Skills and Talent programme aims to create a new and sustainable opportunities to upskill and create a skills pathway for all that will reduce the number of economically inactive, increase the number of people with higher than level 2 qualifications, and create opportunities to increase the number of people with higher level skills, thereby generating prosperity for individuals and businesses across the region. The 5 key areas will be construction, digital, smart manufacturing, health and well-being, and energy. And although I mentioned that these are 5 key areas, this does not mean that there won't be others that will come along during the lifetime of the programme. The programme is an integral part of the City Deal portfolio, bringing together the development of skills that will be required by all the projects within the portfolio and maximising the potential to support the economy. So why do we need this programme? We know from evidence given to us by employers and potential investors in the region that we do not have the skill base here to meet the demands of employers and investors, particularly in the digital and engineering sectors. But the issue with skills is far wider in our region. Compared to Wales, we have a higher percentage of people in parts of the region with no qualifications, and some areas in the region have a lower than average number of people qualified below level 2. On the other side, we also have a lower than average level of people qualified at levels 7 to 8 in some parts of the region. The Skills and Talent programme therefore cannot just be about creating more levels 6 to 8, but about bringing opportunities to everybody to get a qualification that will enable them to earn higher salaries. This programme cannot resolve all of the problems in relation to skilled individuals, but by working together with stakeholders and employers, we can move further forward, reducing that gap between the people with no skills and the people with higher level skills. So what do we aim to deliver? We aim to deliver 14,000 individuals with higher levels 2 to 8 skills in 10 years. 3,000 new apprenticeships between level 3 to degree through the City Deal projects. Develop that all-important career pathway, working with schools and the new curriculum, increasing the number of students taking STEM subjects in college and universities. Deliver 20 new or updated new course frameworks that meet industry needs for the future to replace outdated information contained within frameworks. Create at least 2 centres of excellence within specific sectors to develop the region as being the best areas for skill development. These won't be bricks and mortar and not one venue, but a cluster of expertise in a given industry sector. Upskilling will be key to ensure that we can deliver the projects that make the city deal. This programme will be about developing those new skills that we don't even know about yet. It will not be about doing more of the same. These will be pilot projects for new skills not delivered here currently and will not duplicate existing provision. We want to create a legacy for the region by developing the right skills, working with colleges, schools, universities and training providers to develop that awareness of what skill requirements will be in the future and how these will change significantly during the lifetime of our pupils who are starting out in school now. So how are we going to do this? We're going to complete a skills gap analysis. We've already completed an analysis of what's being delivered here in the region, and we've been working with the projects to identify what skills they anticipate that they will need. We will publish a skills barometer to provide a better understanding of the skills needs and inform the changes that need to be introduced and identify new frameworks and training programs. We'll develop specialist pilot projects to upskill people early, at the same time as developing courses for the future, upskilling teachers and lecturers in the new skills. We'll work with schools and the new curriculum, highlighting opportunities that the City Deal will create and the career pathways open to them, particularly if they follow STEM subjects. And we'll identify the opportunities to create those centres of excellence, not duplicating what's already been started, but by working together. So who are our stakeholders? We have a wide range of stakeholders who we've worked with throughout the development of this business case. And these include the City Deal project leads, the 4 colleges and 3 universities operating in our region, the private training providers, the local authority education and regeneration departments, school leaders across the region. We've worked with over 300 schools to date to highlight opportunities around the City Deal projects, and the 9 industry sector cluster groups with connections to 2,000 businesses across the region. So what are the risks involved? Delay in the approval will impact on the delivery of training. The lack of resources will to deliver the programme could result in skills training not being delivered in time and workforce being brought in from outside to work on the City Deal projects. Businesses becoming disengaged. Failure to increase the number of skilled individuals. Training providers becoming disengaged and not adapting to delivering the necessary skills. And the failure to achieve the legacy of sustainable skills and employment. So the funding for the programme, it's a £30 million programme with £10 million from the City Deal. And that will be utilised to employ a team over a 5-year period, identify and fund the pilot projects to upskill and train individuals, work with schools and develop career pathways, and develop centres of excellence. We have match funding from the public sector, and this will be in-kind contributions from training providers. There's already been a significant amount of match funding during the development of the business case, match funding towards the overall cost of the pilot projects developed, and match funding in kind for use of facilities and equipment to deliver training. There'll also be £4 million from the private sector, and this will come from the employment of 3,000 apprentices at level 3 for at least 1 year. So where are we now? The business case is complete and is being presented to you to the Joint Committee today for approval. The Programme Manager post is currently out for advert. We had a Gateway Zero review completed in June, and we were awarded a Green Delivery Confidence Assessment, indicating that the programme was ready to go. And within that report, there was 4 key recommendations. The first to publish a super executive summary, which has been completed. to submit a governance proposal on how the revision of key themes should be triggered, and that's been completed. The risk register and other programme artefacts are updated and maintained as living documents, and that has been completed. And the final recommendation was that the SRO to agree with Portfolio Office how the programme governance can be streamlined and optimised, reflecting the transition to the delivery phase of the programme. And we've scheduled a meeting to discuss that in August. We had a meeting with the Minister, who was very pleased with what he heard through the presentation. And we've got all of the work ready for submission now to Welsh and UK government at the end of this hopefully approval meeting today. Thank you very much. I'll then share my screen.
Lovely, diolch yn fawr Jane, thank you for that. And as you can see, Chair, a relatively simple project in our opinion. We feel the RLSP is the correct vehicle to take this project forward, and there are two primary elements. It's one large gap analysis, identifying what exists in the region currently versus the needs of the City Deal projects. We will then, having identified these unique needs, we will develop solutions, pilot those solutions as well. Any existing skills identified as required by the projects will be signposted to existing funding streams, whether it be Welsh Government funding, legacy funding from European funds or whatever. So it's the development of specialist skills programs to meet the needs of the projects. And the other primary element is that of developing our workforce of the future, influencing the curriculum in schools, influencing the career decisions of young people, hopefully therefore retaining skills pathways into the projects, into sustainable employment in the region on that basis. And as Jay mentioned, it's a one-off opportunity we feel here, and excited by the opportunity that we can provide a legacy of sustainable employment and, importantly, a skills infrastructure in the region. Happy now for Jane and I to take any questions you may have.
Okay, thank you, Barry. Thank you, Jane. And again, as you both said, a very critical project and programme for the City Deal, and really important in terms of, as you said, creating that future workforce and filling the gaps in our current workforce economy. So happy to take questions if anybody has them. I know this report has and the programme has been through each of the councils and has been supported on that, and also, as Jane said, it's been well received by the ministers when we've presented to them. So are there any questions or comments on this one? Steve, yeah, do you want to come in?
Thanks very much, Robin. Thanks very much both for the helpful presentation there. Just had a question in terms of horizon scanning into the future for the new skills that are likely to emerge, and how far will this project take that? So, you know, what is the period of time that we're looking into the future here for the new skills that will be required in Wales?
It's very much closely aligned, if I can, into the project requirements in the first instance, Steve. So we're looking at the life of the project as being the immediate step, and that does cause us some issues because at this point in time we aren't aware of the skills that will emerge. But equally well, we have to look at life beyond those, and if you look at the emerging technologies and the delivery of training requirements at the moment, they are quite immense, aren't they? So I'd focused within the 10 to 15 year period of the deal itself is the primary aim, but we will respond as they emerge within each of the projects.
Okay, but I think this is something that the universities can very much help with, I think, in terms of the scoping for the future talent that we're going to need in the workforce around that.
Absolutely.
Great, thanks very much.
Okay, thanks, Steve. Medwyn?
Thank you, Chair. Just to fully endorse, I think the importance of this important. It allows us as a region to really create an integrated regional framework. You know, we're really focusing here on equity of opportunity right across the region. And I think the potential there for employer industry integrated engagement here is absolutely key. The skill scanning is important, but what we can create here together is a really powerful coalition to support skills right across the region.
Yes, absolutely agree, especially on the point about parity there. Very, very important. Okay, if there aren't any other comments or questions, then again, this one's for approval. So could I ask my leader and deputy leader colleagues to show their approval for the scheme if that's their wish? Okay, thank you. Yep, that looks unanimous again. So Jane, thank you very much for the presentation. Barry, again, thank you for also your contribution. That is approved. So we will now move on to the next one, which is the update for the change request for the Waterfront Digital District, the Innovation Matrix. We're going to have an update from Geraint in a second, but I'll call Medwin in first, who may want to say a few words before Geraint comes in.
Thank you, Chair. You have the full information in front of you. It relates to, I think, a change of variation in the context of the process. Geraint will take you through that. There are no changes in the context of the deliverables or in the cash context. I'm happy to support Geraint as he goes through the presentation, Chair.
Okay, thank you. Geraint, over to you.
Yeah, thanks very much, Chair. So just to refer members then to around 223 in your packs, page 223, and there's a short 5-slide presentation there. So if I can refer you to slide 1 then, and I'll just summarise the drivers behind this change request from the university. So as a brief context, you'll note that the university has 2 projects in the current digital district business case. The Innovation Matrix, which is formerly the Box Village project, to which this change request mainly pertains because of its immediate delivery timescale.
Sorry to interrupt, Geraint. I'm just mindful of people who may wish to be viewing this on the stream. If you're able to share those slides, I think that would be really helpful for anybody who may be watching the meeting if they may not have access to the pack. But if not, obviously we'll continue without the slides. But I think it'd be useful for those watching.
I am able to go on, John. Sorry.
Chair, the slides aren't bilingual, so what we've been advised is that they don't get shared on the screen, and we refer to the pack.
Okay, no problem. We won't upset the Welsh Language Commissioner. So let's continue with Geraint's verbal update. Thank you, Geraint.
Yeah, of course. Thanks, Chair. So, as I was saying, you'll note the university has 2 projects in the digital district business case at the moment. Project 1 and the immediate one is the Innovation Matrix. So that's formerly the Box Village project. And this change request mainly pertains and focuses on the Innovation Matrix project. And our second project is the Innovation Precinct, which is ostensibly planned for 2 to 3 years down the line. But I mention it because of its immediate and clear dependency on the outcome of this immediate change request. So just to summarise the key drivers for change in relation to what I'm going to talk about today, the Innovation Matrix. Firstly, our developing strategy for the project has meant we've changed the delivery model and name. So it's no longer called Box Village. It's now the Innovation Matrix. A higher quality space, which allows greater robustness, flexibility and longevity to support the university's aspirations to co-locate commercial partners and research centres within a new purpose-built facility and drive a new wave of economic growth within the City Bay region. And secondly, what we probably want to discuss today is that the university is experiencing some challenges in fully enabling our legally binding contract with our private sector partner. And that's going to result in a delay or deferment in securing the projected private sector funding for the Innovation Matrix project. Now, we've looked at several options to mitigate the risk, and we believe that the reprofiling of the funding package is the most effective response to ensure the deliverability of the agreed outcomes and benefits in the timescales and ensure that we don't face a lengthy delay in proceeding as originally planned. I'd be grateful if at the conclusion of this slide that the committee could note at this point it's not a request for additional funding, as the Vice-Chancellor mentioned. It's a reprofiling and risk mitigation exercise that will deliver or probably more likely improve upon the benefits and outcomes that we've already agreed with the City deal. To move on to slide 2, and this slide just references and explains the reallocation of funding from the original 2016 profile to what we're proposing we agree today as the 2021 profile. And to confirm, no change to the overall allocation, as indicated in the blue columns on the right there. It's still the circa 30 million for the 2 projects for the university. So what we're proposing, for the reasons outlined, I've just outlined, is that the private sector funding is now front-loaded within our schemes to enable the delivery of the Innovation Matrix project, with the private sector funding then being deferred to our second project, the Innovation Precinct. And we will put risk mitigation strategies in place to ensure that the private sector funding is realised at this later juncture. Clearly, that's an important point in the context of today's discussions. So to elaborate slightly on those proposed risk mitigation strategies around the deferment of private sector funding, we will continue to negotiate the contracted obligations with our current private sector partner to ensure that we achieve the best possible outcome in the context of that agreement and contract. We'll continue to develop and evolve the economic potential that's emerged in discussions with alternative private sector partners. And we've tested the market in that respect, and we've had a very positive interest from a wide range of parties who could become involved in the Innovation Precinct project further down the line. And importantly then, in the wider context of the city deal, we're proposing what we think is a more economically advantageous delivery model for the Innovation Precinct, which will make it more commercially viable to the private sector. So that would involve working closely with City and County of Swansea around a city centre location for the building, rather than where it's currently planned in SA1. Reviewing the technical delivery options to ensure the building's delivered in the most economically advantageous manner, as I mentioned. So specifically, that would be the consideration of a potential refurbishment of existing building rather than a complete new build. And then possible and appropriate use of the university's covenant to underwrite and support private sector funding in the Innovation Precinct as we approach that project, so sort of two years down the line. To direct you then to slide 3. So what this does is it just indicates the likely impacts of non-approval of this change, and essentially there would be 2 time-critical scenarios if we weren't able to approve this change today. The university could continue to conclude its negotiations within the parameters of the existing legally binding contract with our private sector partner, and again, that's likely to result in significant delay to the project commencement. We've estimated probably 1 to 2 years on that. And the other scenario is that we seek an alternative private sector partner, which, noting the constraints of our currently legally binding arrangement, will again result in significant project delay. So the key impact here is additional time should we not approve the change. The net effect would be both a considerable increase in capital costs for both of the projects, as we've seen recently with inflation post-COVID, and a corresponding loss of benefits within the city deal's 15-year appraisal period. There's also probably the consideration of the effects of non-approval on the wider portfolio aims, as well as the inability to dynamically react to current policy objectives such as COVID recovery. And finally, to slide 4 in the packs then, and this slide just elaborates on what I previously summarised around the strategy to ensure the proposed deferment of private sector funding is properly managed at the point of delivery of the second project, the Innovation Precinct. And incidentally, our ongoing business case review process was pointing us in this direction, regardless of the challenges we are facing with our current contract arrangements. So to summarise and conclude, really, the university is proposing that we front-load the public sector finance and defer private sector finance to enable delivery of the Innovation Matrix in the first instance. The university will commit to at least achieving, or more likely improving upon, the agreed benefits and outcomes across both the Innovation Matrix and Innovation Precinct projects. And most importantly, we'll continue to manage the residual risk then of private sector securing of funding at point of delivery of the precinct by doing everything we can to facilitate our currently legally binding contract with the private sector partner, and then making the Innovation Precinct a more attractive commercial proposition to the private sector by, as I've already described, working closely with City and County of Swansea to place that second project into the city centre, where we believe it will be more commercially attractive, reviewing those technical delivery options to ensure the most economically advantageous build solution, and then appropriate use of the university's covenant to underwrite and support the private sector funding at point of delivery of that second project. So, Chair, that about concludes the summary of where we are on this this risk mitigation and reprofiling exercise.
Thank you, Geraint. Medwyn, is there anything further you wanted to add?
No, not at this stage, Chair.
Okay, I think you know, from my perspective, obviously pleased to see the benefits being retained. That's a hugely important part of what you've reassured us on today. In terms of the project itself, obviously, again, very pleased to see the opportunity being taken to utilise a city centre space potentially as part of the new approach. It gets us to the same point, and as I think you alluded to quite clearly, you know, this is a risk mitigation and de-escalate some of the risks that otherwise would be there. So again, I guess the environment has changed a bit. And this allows that element of the waterfront digital district to be now delivered in a slightly different way, but obviously to maintain those benefits and outputs. So from that respect, I'm grateful for the update today and grateful to see the revised programme here. So I can see, I think I got a hand up from Martin, so I'll go to Martin next.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, I was just going to echo that from a Swansea Council point of view. Thanks to Geraint and Medwyn, we've been having ongoing discussions in relation to the change request, and we are supportive of it. Also, the detail will be then contained within the funding agreement, and I think you will note in the report further on, it does refer that pending the agreement from the Joint Committee today, we will then be able to progress and conclude the funding agreement that will obviously make sure the changes are correctly recorded for the formalities of that in line with the governance procedures. So that allows then effectively the approval of the funding to proceed. So yeah, fully endorse the request and the changes that are contained therein. Thanks, Chair.
Okay, thank you very much. Just to advise members as well, obviously, should we be minded to approve this today, then obviously then it will be forwarded to Welsh Government and UK Government for their consideration as part of the change process, and obviously as part of the process that we would follow to make sure that both our partners in both governments are content with the changes that we're proposing to the programme. So happy to take further comment or questions. I'm sure Geraint and Medwyn would as well. John, over to you.
Chair, just to build on your point with Welsh and UK Government, so the intent is that they will consider that next week at officer level with all the information that's been provided. So hopefully we'll get a decision from governments, if not next week, the week after, so early August.
Okay, thank you, John. Are there any other contributions before I go to the vote on this one? Chris, yeah, over to you.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. No, I just think, you know, ESB haven't really had much input into this. Geraint, we talked about other projects. I do think it shouldn't affect the decision making today, but certainly there should be a discussion with ESB about possible further private sector opportunities. I think that's really where we can add some value to these projects. So the offer really is there to, you know, maybe you put together a workshop or session with the ESB specifically to try and add some value to the private sector element of this project.
Chris, thanks for that. And incidentally, I discussed that with Peter yesterday, and Peter's agreed to email ESB to ask for that workshop to take place.
Excellent. I think that's a really good offer, and I'm glad to see Geraint picking it up. So that's grateful for that, guys. I think that's a good step forward. Okay, subject to all of that, can I ask my leader and deputy leader colleagues then if they are happy to approve this subject to the comments that I've made, and obviously Jonathan in terms of where the recommendation will go next then in terms of the government. So are we happy to agree? Thank you. Yep, that looks unanimous. So again, thank you very much. Can I thank Medwyn and Geraint for the update, and for Geraint for the presentation. Thank you very much, and good luck in terms of the next steps.
Thank you, Chair.
Okay, thank you all. We'll now move to the highlight report element of the agenda, and I'll go to Phil to take us through the updates. So Phil, over to you.
Thank you, Chair. I'll just cover off a few minor points, appreciating this is the second joint committee we have had this month, so I won't take up too much more of everybody's time. So with regards to the programs and projects, Aregin have now completed the sector demand analysis that they are undertaking for phase 2. So we are hopeful that the formal report for that will be available in the next couple of weeks, and that will inform the strategy for phase 2 and the elements within Aregin which will better support the creative sector. And just in relation to phase 1, a gateway review is planned for their gateway 5 review now that that has been complete and in operation for a period of time, and more details to follow on that in the coming months. With regards to PDM, all planning permission is now progressed through without any further issues. So the PDI aspect of PDM is now progressing, and the marine licenses have been granted. With regards to the digital district, the contractor was appointed for 7172 the Kingsway, and that is Bouygues. And with regards to the digital arena, the completion of that aspect of the programme is still planned for the tail end of this year, 2021. Construction on 7172 is due to commence in the 3rd quarter as well, and we've obviously just discussed the innovation matrix, which as has been said, following officer approval at Welsh and UK government next week, that can now progress through and start commencing delivery as soon as possible. So again, everything moving forward and in the right direction on Swansea waterfront. With regards to Pentre Owl, the Zone 1 contractor tender is nearing completion, and that is meaning that Pentre Owl can move forward, and hopefully again construction will start on that in the new year. Digital infrastructure, regional digital funding agreements have been agreed by the digital board, and regional 5G workshops have been undertaken, which is part of the detailed scoping elements with regards to the individual projects contained within the digital programme. We had confirmation yesterday that the Homes as Power Station scheme has now received ministerial approval, so that is good news. The business case has been approved by both governments and can now progress again through to delivery. Similarly, supporting innovation and low carbon, the business case is with ministers, and we're anticipating that will hopefully receive business case approval in the next few weeks. So hopefully by the end of August we should see the approval coming through on that business case. Life science wellbeing campuses, that was received by the programme portfolio board yesterday. There's a few more lines of governance that needs to progress through, but that business case is progressing well, and will come back to joint committee either in September or in October for consideration by the committee, and then assuming that we can get regional approval for that will then obviously go on for minister approval. And the final scheme within the portfolio is the skills and talent scheme, which we've obviously seen today the business case approved, so that will go to ministers at both respective governments for approval in the coming days. And that's a very quick update on what was given earlier in the month. Thank you, Chair.
Yes, thank you, Philip. And again, as you referenced, obviously the really good news on the Homes as Power Stations, which came through recently. That's obviously £505 million approval, which is a significant element of the deal, and a further really good news story in terms of progress. And again, we hope now that we will see the next couple of projects, the remaining ones coming through, and then obviously we have a huge deal which is majority of which now is in delivery, which is fantastic and can only be for the benefit of the region. So good news overall, but thank you for that, Phil. I don't know whether anybody's got any questions or anything they wish to add from their relevant perspectives on any of the projects that Phil has run through. More than happy to take that if anybody does want to comment. But I know we did have quite a full update at the previous meeting. Chris?
Yeah, just a quick update, Chair, on campuses. There's a gateway review on August the 12th, which I'm participating in, and I'll be arranging a site visit prior to that.
Okay, great stuff. Thank you, Chris. Anyone else for anything to add? If not, thank you, Philip, for the update. And that concludes business today. I've not been notified of any other business, but I will take any if there are any late items. If not, can I thank you all for your attendance and for your participation, and we will see you next time. Thank you all very much. Take care.
Thank you all. Ta-ra.